President, where he said it's unfortunate that most cabinet secretaries cannot regulate themselves, and he mentioned how hard it is to hold a cabinet committee meeting due to lack of quorum, and perhaps that's why the president issued restrictions here and there. But I think it's 9 months down the line since the cabinet was constituted. Looking at some of the reactions, and remember initially we had the conversation around meritocracy or vis-a-vis rewarding political loyalty, and we well know the route the president decided to take. So months later, looking at the output of some of the cabinet secretaries, what say you about their effectiveness in those positions so far?
You know what happens with performance contracting and basically setting up of strategic goals in any organization is that it starts from the top, and there is a lot of discussion that goes on. So what they were signing was actually a product of a discussion that already happened. And my understanding, I may not have information about the content of each individual performance contract that they were signing, but this is how they are done all over the world in the corporate world. That the vision bearer, in this case the president, who has a plan and he was given the mandate by Kenyans to implement that plan, draws that plan, and all the cabinet secretaries and the ministers and the departments and the parastatals have to have a discussion with him on how whatever their departments are all about, whatever their ministries are all about, will fit into that plan. So it starts with the president himself drawing the direction, the vision, the strategic goals. This is what you want to do in the next financial year. This is what the finance bill is going to collect for us. This is what the budget has appropriated for each ministry. But this is exactly what we need to do. This is what the president wants to do. Now, each ministry, how do I pick from the goals of the president, what do I fit in, so that if I deliver this, the president has delivered. So I'm sure that discussion happened before. And it is certain that the signing of the performance contract, whether people came late or early, does not in itself negate the fact that there was a robust discussion, and the president knows the deliverable for each and every cabinet secretary. So I think to that extent, would actually be very happy if we have a president who is at the cutting edge of things, knows almost everything that is happening in every ministry. Because what that does is that most of us can't envy these cabinet secretaries because they have to be ahead of the president. And I don't think it's an easy task. But let me come back to your question, which ties into what the president said, that he has more information than his cabinet secretaries. Now, this is 1 year down the lane since they took power, and of course, since he appointed most of his cabinet secretaries. That should be a concern for most Kenyans. You know, why? If Parliament, approved these appointments, and we remember what members of Azimio said, that let us give the president his, let me not use the word that they used, but they actually approved the people that the president wanted to work with, you know. Yeah. And we've discussed it here, times above numbers, that the president essentially went for loyalty, and we assumed that even if you are to be loyal in this country, Kenyans have gone to school. There is a high likelihood that you'll be loyal to people who are learned, people who are capable. And I think if you look at that cabinet, I mean, to a large extent, there are men and women who are capable of delivering, you know, and you can't fault them for, not delivering. Now, the critical question is, even if we don't know whatever they signed up to, the statements by the president and the deputy president, suggest that there is a lot to be desired in the entire working arrangement. Because if you give people a responsibility to deliver, and there's a performance contract that they've signed, there is clarity that this is the overarching objective that you have as the president. This is what a cabinet secretary in a certain ministry has built and said, based on this overarching objective, these are the things that you should evaluate me on in the next few months. That basically tells you that the president doesn't need to be ahead of the cabinet secretary, doesn't need to be calling people, beneath the cabinet secretary. There needs to be a sense of trust that I appointed Jesse in this cabinet ministry, and Jesse is going to deliver. So for me, I think we should be worried that, there's an overbearing president who is a lot more demanding, which could be good, but you see, leadership is about effective communication. Leadership is about motivating the team that you lead. And if you motivate the team that you lead and they understand the goal, then you don't have to be ahead of them. And you don't have to be proud of the fact that you're ahead of them. And I can tell you, if you're proud of the fact that you're ahead of them, then you're making us revisit what Parliament said, that they gave you what you wanted. And what you wanted may not be what works for Kenya. And I think that is where we need to be worried.
I think, the performance contracting is domiciled at the office of the Cabinet Secretary. And Ishmael has decided to pick only one strand on language or civility or diplomacy. But the essence
it's really what concerns me.
Yeah, but the essence of performance contracting is to make the public sector efficient and effective. Not necessarily to reduce expenditures or costs, is to make it effective and efficient. So that if the Department of Immigration tells you, if you apply for a passport on day 1, you are going to get it on day 4, then on day 4 you should get that passport. That when you go back, nobody's going to give you a layer of excuses. That is the reason of that. And then Professor Yao came late, has indicated that there are a number of those cabinet secretaries who are getting SOMO, they had very serious challenges during the vetting, which is a statement of fact. A number of them, when they were being vetted, people sat back and said, wait a minute, are they going to deliver? But some of them have shocked Kenyans, like the CS for Tourism, Malonza. She's been able to proactively address the human-wildlife conflicts, offered people compensation, and and she's promoting Western Kenya as a tourist circuit. When you are before a camera and intimidating people like these two gentlemen, it's very easy for you to get confused. But I think she's settled down. Now, the issue of timekeeping, in my view, is a very, very pertinent issue. Because in some societies, in Japan, a public servant of rank who runs late for a meeting resigns. It happened not long time ago in the House of Commons when I think a minister ran late, and on account of running late, the minister resigned. Now, one would dare to imagine that if you are running late for President Ruto's meeting, where you are going to sign your own performance contracting, what happens to people who are coming to see you at your office? It's very easy. I mean, you want to keep the president waiting, the head of state, head of government, commander-in-chief, the one who appointed you to office, but you've got capacity to keep him waiting. What of Professor Wile, who is coming to your office? For how long will you have tea at your reception? Those are some of the critical issues that I think they must be addressed. And in my view, timekeeping must be a key performance indicator, not just in the public sector, but also in the private sector.
Just on this, how valuable these contracts are, where are they kept? Now, Mokwa is saying they are domiciled at the
prime cabinet secretaries. Yeah.
But who follows them up? You see, that is the concern of the citizens. What happens? I mean, they are signed, so what happens? In the private sector, how they handle it, every other year, you again do an appraisal with your immediate superior, and your superior also with his immediate superior, and goes downwards that way until every single employee or staff member is actually appraised. So in this case, I think that the permanent secretary, the principal secretary would appraise the minister would then appraise probably the head of civil service, and the head of civil service appraises again the minister and goes downwards. So that who appraises then? The head of state. Probably, I don't know how they have planned, whether they have this appraisal method, because appraisal is critical in the sense that you're here, Jesse, and after this show, we shake hands and say, hey, you didn't give us enough time. That is appraisal already, isn't it? And you say, hey, you guys were a little bit, taking all the time, there's a lot of, what do you call it? A lot of OTOs, so to say, irrelevant communication you passed across. So appraisal is important for this contract to actually be properly gauged. Okay. So I don't know then whether the head of state probably would be appraised by Raila Odinga, maybe. How did you perform?
The head of state is appraised by voters every 5 years, and you see the key performance indicators in the scoreboard. You see inflation, you see interest rates, you see debt, you see the levels of unemployment. That is how they are appraised.
Food as you see money in our pocket.
Yeah, pesa mfukoni. And before the end of every financial year, there's a ceremony at KCC where the ones who've hit the high notes are recognized, and the ones who have been a bit, who have not hit the high notes are probably not recognized. So it happens, but maybe the challenge is, are there consequences for non-delivery? That if you do not deliver, then does the president accept your resignation, or he'll probably give you another opportunity?
And I think, remembering the report prepared by my colleague Rita Tinina, she mentioned that there wasn't any clarification on the consequence if you did not meet the intended targets. So that's really important. And perhaps add your voice to a point that Hesbon raised in terms of the downside to President Ruto's micromanaging approach, the style of leadership, that perhaps it might create lack of trust in the appointees, hence create lack of, rather fear and uncertainty in terms of them doing their job. Is that a double-edged sword